And of course, there's still the issue of radical jihadists the world over, from ISIS to Hamas, who still pose a threat to this country. And people like Scarborough seem to have forgotten that all of these groups and all of these individuals still pose an imminent threat to this nation. My next guest has not forgotten about this and has worked hard to remind everyone of it. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is the founder and the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy and author of Battle for the Soul of Islam. He joins me now. Dr. Jasser, always so good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I was actually pretty taken aback when I realized just how many, and I was reading an article about how families of 9/11 victims, they're how are we not capturing some of these top terrorists, and why is it so unbelievably difficult that here we have 17 years later, these individuals are still out there, and then you have all of these other groups, the ISIS, that have spawned and have become, I guess, branded, for the lack of a better way to put it, since then. Where are we, Dr. Jasser, 17 years later, in terms of stopping radical Islam and political Islam?
Well, Dana, the whack-a-mole program continues. The whack-a-mole from terrorist to terrorist, be it from, as you showed, with Zawahiri, Shukri Juma. A lot of these guys were in the United States, and now God knows where they are. Zawahiri obviously is in the Middle East, was in Pakistan somewhere, but now we don't know. And as Al-Qaeda was on the verge of being decimated, basically, in 2007, then we saw the Arab awakening give rise to ISIS. And ISIS is now on the verge of being decimated. But the jihadi whack-a-mole program will continue until America gets the resolve that we had in the Cold War, in which we realized that the Soviets were even just a byproduct of our global conflict against communism. And America needs to wake up. I did a video reflection this morning about 9/11, and I said, never forget is a good starting place, but what are we doing about it? What is America doing? And as you mentioned the revolting comments of Joe Scarborough and others, I think to myself, how much partisanship is the left going to have in which they obsess about the swamp that they live in Washington, and forget about the fact that America has a role in the world? The jihadists right now are going to sprout back up after the massacre that's happening in Idlib at the feet of Bashar Assad and the Khomeynists. Basra in Iraq, which Obama handed to the Khomeynists, now had another attack just last week. Iran is on the verge of falling, thankfully, as a result of the reinstitution of sanctions. So jihadists are going to have a lot of vacuums that they can fill in while America is obsessing in Trump derangement syndrome.
And it is, and you and I have spoken about this before, and you've noted that this is, it very much is it's a political cultural issue that we seem to want to take, that Washington, D.C. approaches incorrectly.
Absolutely. And the best thing the Trump administration has done is they ended the CVE program. I called for the end of it back when Osama bin Laden was assassinated, and luckily gotten by Obama and actually SEAL Team 6. And we said, enough. We got the head of the snake. There's going to be other heads from the Hydra that are going to come up. Let's stop this violent extremism nonsense and counter Islamism. And hopefully now, as the CVE program dies a quick death over the next year, we'll begin to look at hopefully the next stage, which is countering Islamism, and realize that the bigger pool of nonviolent Islamism, as you and I and others have spoken with the compound in New Mexico that had a grandfather connected to it that is at the head of most of the Islamic organizations in America, that might have been against the violence, but yet was connected to the radicalization of that sort of that milieu of being anti-American, anti-Western, conspiracy theory activists, etc. All of that we're ignoring as we're missing in action in the information program. And as you mentioned at the top of this segment, we are even ignoring the individuals that participated in 9/11 and were part of the ideological apparatus that was with bin Laden, because we are so much in an ADD process in our strategy.
Yeah, very much. I would love to see, and I'm pleased to see that some of this is being streamlined and that it's being refined under this administration. But we have a lot of decades to make up, and this is a generational. This is not going to be something that we solve in the next election cycle.
It isn't. We've got to begin to educate America that this is a long battle. What is going to be our legacy? Islam is a quarter of the world's population is Muslim, and they are right now producing Islamic republics with movements that believe in blasphemy laws and other ways. And our front lines like Twitter and Facebook now are starting to put into place laws against folks that they think are on the fringe, while we prohibit the free speech of people like myself and other anti-jihadists that should be given the space in this laboratory of freedom to fight the precursors of radical Islam that we miss when all we do is focus on the Al-Qaeda's and the militant endpoint of this much, much bigger global problem.
There you have it. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, always such a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for your time today. Good to see you.
Thanks, Dana. Anytime.